Hello, podcast listeners. Have you ever thought about a robot taking your medical exam? Tucker and I touch on that right away. Plus, we talk about things like patreon.com/JJMeetsWorld, where you can donate to JJ Meets World. And after that, we get into a really awkward and fun conversation with Dave Brunsvold that was supposed to be about video games and is only sort of about video games. Also, there's a bit about excrement. Enjoy this episode of JJ Meets World.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirls as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called J.J. Meets World.
Do you think that we're close to the point of where robots will start taking over part of the medical field? Let me further dive in with a secondary question before you answer that. Tucker has a raging headache right now, and it's causing him to be just a real pill in the studio.
I'm a jerk.
And he's got some spinal column pieces that are not aligned, and then he's like, I was moving my shoulders around. Saying, like, wouldn't it be great if they took old phone booths and they just put a robot in there who could, like, do a spinal adjustment, so you wouldn't have to go to a doctor every time. You could go to a robot who, quite frankly, would probably be more precision with what they're doing. Now, of course, you're losing the art of that and the human interaction where you're like, stop.
You know, I don't think I need art to come into it when it's like medical treatment. I would much prefer just straight science. Just, yep, just absolute. Not like, I kind of feel it should go this way. Well, I like to do it that way, you know. I would much prefer there be you
know who said stuff like that?
To it.
That FAA committee who tried to blame that crash on Sully Sullenberger. Those people were like, it's all about the simulations. I went to the doctor recently, and I noticed that there's so many people having to just fill out hours and hours of typing when it involves it.
Right.
Versus I see stuff from back in the day when, like, a doctor would come to your house and he would just be like, here's some pills. Okay. Let me check your knee.
It got more complicated. Well, that was back when they thought, I'm just going to bleed you here for a little bit and then we'll get the evil spirits out. Like,
I mean, really, have we progressed really that far? Because
I'd say we have.
I have seen some stuff that is pretty horrific that is done. And I think that what's happened is the medical world has become more and more expensive. Mm-hmm. And so people are taking it onto themselves. So they're doing things like saying, I've got this weird cyst. I'm going to use my child's protractor.
That's a good idea,
to remove it.
Yeah,
rather than go into
a sterile environment with a professional who went to school for it.
I also beg to differ that it's a sterile environment.
It's far more sterile than your kid's protractor at home.
Are you sure? Because I ran it under the tap.
Yeah.
And I turned the water to warm.
Okay, Mother Teresa.
One thing that scares me about going to the doctor is they know more about my body than I do.
Right.
And that terrifies me.
They can see into orifices you'll never see into.
Right. Exactly.
You're never going to look down your ear canal. You can't.
Unless they hook it up to a video monitor. I will say, though, one time I had a colonoscopy that they had a camera, and I was watching it, and so I'm one of the only people, I think, who's directed a movie inside their own butt.
At Thanksgiving, I had to ask my dad to take the photo of his open knee during surgery off the refrigerator so that we could eat without having to see that. What is it with you guys and, like, looking at inside your body that way?
I don't know.
That makes no sense to me.
I was like, whoa, look at that.
I like it looking at stuff that came out of my body, but not like what's in there right now. Nah, I'm good.
People are like, oh, it's gross. People who look at their, when they blow their nose. Well, you know what? That's how you see if you're healthy.
Yeah, that's what that is. Although I've also thought that maybe you're just saying goodbye to a piece of yourself.
It's mostly dirt.
Yeah, but there's DNA in there.
Yeah,
there's
true.
Dead skin cells in there. This is appropriately not safe for work for Davy's episode.
Right, it is. It is. If you listen to this on a speaker system, just note that the things
maybe
get
don't.
a little out of hand here pretty quick. And I will also tell you this too. If you're like someone like my banker Jeff, who listens to this while he's on the treadmill, you better be prepared to like fall off the treadmill, because there are some stories that Davey tells that are really, really funny. And this episode may keep you from getting charged with possession of meth. You gotta listen to find out how. And speaking about finding out and the word how, find out how you can sustain JJ Meets World by going to patreon.com/JJ Meets World and throwing us a couple of bucks today, or having a monthly subscription to it. Every episode is free, but you guys are the ones who are doing the hard work of listening.
Yeah.
So you should be rewarded by us continuing to do this. And the only way we
Reward
can
yourself by giving us money,
reward
please. That makes a lot of sense, JJ.
Yeah, it does. And
Yeah.
maybe one day we'll write you a physical letter, but probably not. Strap in and enjoy this episode of JJ Meets World with our good friend David Brunsvold Jr.
JJ Meets World.
David Brunsvold. Now, are you technically a junior?
I am. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your dad has the same name?
Yep.
And then-
Through and through. Yep.
Then one time he went to Best Buy and got a refrigerator with all of your reward zone points.
That is actually a true story. Fucking the son of a bitch. Yeah, so when you would go into Best Buy, you know, they would ask you for your like reward zone thing, and I had 1 billion points, just like a ton of points, and they're like, oh, let's up. You know, my dad had gone in to buy, you know, probably some Steve McQueen movie. I don't know. I'm just assuming the Lethal Weapon 4-pack. And they asked him to update his address or whatever, and so they did. And because we shared the name, my dad started getting all of my reward zone dollars, and it had been a while since I had gotten anything, and I was over there for Christmas or something, and he's like, oh yeah, I just keep getting these $20 things. And I'm like, Dad, do you have any idea how much money you have to spend at Best Buy to get $20? And that didn't raise a flag. And he's like, oh, yeah, my DVD collection's grown, you know. So that's worked out real well for him, you know. That format has stayed, you know. So that actually did happen.
You were a manager at Take-Two Video,
Yeah.
which really was a boon for reward zone dollars, because on Tuesdays when new movies and video games would come out, you'd pre-order a bunch of stuff, but then you'd react and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe this many people want to watch District 9.
Yeah, yep.
So the managers would go over to Best Buy, and you would purchase just piles and piles and piles and piles of movies. I mean, spending thousands of dollars every week, and you use the corporate credit card, but you use your reward zone program.
That is a fact. Yeah, you know, what was interesting is, well, and of course, us managers, like, you know, we realized that this was the way to do it too, because so instead of ordering 40 copies of a movie, we'd order 32, expecting that we'd need 40, and then we'd buy 8 copies. You know, because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you do that? Right?
And then you got big ticket items like video games, where it's like,
well,
oh,
right, yeah.
we gotta buy more of these.
So there isn't a heavy discount for video games, right? Like the $60 that you're paying. I mean, if you look at video games, like, you know, $60 price point today, that price point has existed for like, I don't know, something like 20, 15 some years or whatever. So, you know, there's not much of a discount. So you could pre-order through, you know, the distributor that we were using, and you would save like $2, but you wouldn't necessarily have the video game the day it came out. And I remember as a kid, like, I knew if there was a game coming out that I was interested in, you know, I was at least aware, and I wanted, you know, to try and like beat the other kids to the video store that day and, you know, snag a copy of it. So it was more important for us to not save that $2 and to have it, you know, the day it came out and try and rent it out. So.
Which is one of the reasons we brought you in, is I want to have an in-depth video game talk.
Oh yeah, yep.
So let's start with this. You've owned pretty much every system
I never
Since,
owned a
like-
Nintendo 64.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
I did not own a Nintendo 64. That's like in the generation. Yeah.
Huh. So you skipped over to, you became a PlayStation guy at that time?
Yeah, and my dad. The only reason I actually had a PlayStation 1 was actually my dad worked at Hornbacher's, and still does, and for like 40 years or something like that. And
Whenever I run into Dave's dad at Hornbacher's, he picks whatever fruit or vegetables nearby and pretends to jerk it off.
Yep.
From across
Yeah.
the produce section.
And he's worked there long enough, and he's old enough now that people just assume it's like dementia, So yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah, they had a Christmas party and like a holiday Christmas party, and he actually won a PlayStation 1 like the year it came out. So I would have been like 13, 14 or whatever. So he's like, Christmas party, I got the Sega that are good. And I'm like, holy shit, like,
Dad!
oh my God, I just got a PlayStation 1, having to, call all my friends, not text or anything.
On a landline.
On an actual landline.
Be like,
yeah.
hello, Mrs. Sayers. Is Garth there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Do you have a favorite game on the... Let's go system by system. So
Okay.
PlayStation 1, did you have a favorite game for that system?
Oh, man.
Pot Rappa the Rappa, probably.
I
Davey.
That game is great. Have you played the remake? They did like a remaster,
No,
I think, of that.
no.
Yeah, I haven't really. I didn't play Power Up of the Rapper, I don't think.
I only played it on a demo disc that I had.
Oh, really?
So I only had like the opening 2 levels, and that was
and then that was it.
That was all I ever had.
But demo discs were pretty sweet back in
They
the
were
day.
awesome.
Like if you didn't have, I remember like playing like the Battlefield, one of the betas, and if you bought like the Xbox magazine, you
Right.
got a demo disc, and it was multiplayer. And I remember like me and my buddies playing the same stupid level on Battlefield over
Right.
for like ever.
Or like if you were like into JRPGs like
Yep.
I was. That's how I found Xenogears.
Yeah.
That's how you'd get the trailer to Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I would just watch that over
Yeah,
and
yeah.
over again. Those were the shit. I loved that stuff.
PlayStation 1, probably top game. I guess like the game that's probably sat the longest, that I probably have to say Final Fantasy Tactics.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much well respected amongst most nerds. It's
hard.
It is hard, and I can't believe that like as dumb teenagers like we played it and we're good at it, because it's a slower game. It's like top down strategy. It's like move this unit here, use this ability, move this unit here, and that one's great.
What about, let's go back to the original Nintendo. Is there an original Nintendo game?
Okay, so Dragon Quest 1 is like has some serious meaning to me, because it's the first video game besides like, because when you buy the Nintendo, you get Super Mario Brothers with it, right? And Duck Hunt. But Dragon Warrior 1 was the first video game that I ever purchased with my own money, and I bought it used from a sale at Take-Two Video. So I remember like
Full circle.
Yep, I remember walking there, and I had some small amount of money, and I was like, "Oh, I'll check this out." And yeah, I played the hell out of that game, which is also weird because I was like 6 and playing Dragon Warrior.
Talk
1.
about a slow game.
Oh, for sure.
That is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
very
That's
slow
like
game.
straight up JRPG, like overhead map walking. Oh, you fight an enemy. It's slow.
Yep.
So, but
One thing I really liked about games like for the original Nintendo was there was finality to your ability to beat the game. If you did not have skill, you would lose your 3 lives, and then you would start over from the beginning.
That's why they call it Nintendo Hard.
yeah.
That game is Nintendo Hard.
Well, so what's interesting is I was reading something one time about how, like, back then arcades were huge, right? And arcades, we'd love to think of them as, just like these wholesome things where you'd go and play, but like they were money-making machines,
Yeah.
right? And you have to play like the Simpsons arcade machine once to realize that, this is a quarter sucker, right? And so, I read this article that was talking about how like Nintendo, like these home machines were basically the opportunity for these arcade systems to move to, or these companies to port basically their games from the arcade into the home. So a lot of them have the same mentality that they're quarter suckers, if you will. You know, you die, you only have 3 lives. You die. But with the convenience of not having to actually spend a quarter, so the difficulty and stuff behind the games are the same. But you just, have the luxury of being able to hit reset or start over again without throwing more quarters at it. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
It is very interesting, especially because there's a lot of games where you'll play the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game, like the arcade version of whatever this is. And I always found it odd that they would make console versions of them that are just slightly different in ways. And you go like, oh, this is just slightly cruddier.
I still wake up in like a hot sweat thinking of like the underwater level in the first Turtles game.
The game, dude. I think every kid owned, especially then because the Turtles was so huge. And you had that stupid fucking seaweed.
Every time you hit the seaweed, and then you thought you were at the end of no, you missed one. You missed a bomb. Yeah, because everything is dead now.
Yeah, that's right. Because you had that overworld map where you would go into a sewer area, and then that level sucked.
It also took me a while to figure out that you could switch turtles mid-level.
Oh yeah, using select or something like that.
Yeah, well, you would pause the game and then you could choose a different one right there. So if your health was going down, you could switch until you found a pizza, switch back right away, and that was a part of the game functionality. But I just never figured that out as a kid.
Little Tucker didn't read that instruction manual.
No, I did
little
not.
Davey didn't either.
No.
I think there were a lot of games, especially in that era too, that were meant to be difficult for kids, but because their audience was like children, right? And so you're supposed to be testing yourself. But then at the same time, they were like, well, we got a popular kids property. We need to get a video game for it. Well, let's just slap these characters onto something that already exists. I think one of the most famous is Super Mario Brothers 2, which was originally Doki Doki Panic, right?
Doku Panic.
Doku Panic.
Yeah, that they skinned.
In Japan. And so all they did was they changed the sprites
to
be Mario and Luigi and stuff
Mario
like that.
Yeah, because that game was way different.
Because the actual Mario 2 in Japan became the Lost Levels
on
the All-Stars game. I am also interested in having a running score in games. So if you play Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and there's a score, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just a number. And so after a while, after having played through that game so many times, I would just start keeping track of a high score.
Sure.
So I had some reason, some metric to get out of it.
Speedrunning is super huge right now. And you have you can do glitch speedrunning or no glitch speedrunning. And actually, I used to think that the no glitch speedrunning was pure and the right way to do it. But I'll tell you, some of the glitches that these speedrunners find and what they have to do to make them happen is actually pretty impressive sometimes. I've seen it for one of the Zelda games. I think it's Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask or something, which I've never played because I never owned a Nintendo 64. But you had to detonate a bomb but jump at the right time, and then you would actually float and die, but you could cross this massive chasm, timing it perfectly and save yourself some ridiculous amount of time. It's impressive.
That one also has an underwater level that is known to be an absolute controller throwing against the wall level. Why underwater levels are just hell.
Yeah.
Anytime, even when you're playing Super Mario, you're it's an underwater level. It means I have less control than I typically would in different situations.
I think so. Mario has any of their underwater levels or levels where you're running just on top of the water barely and those flying fish are popping out is one of the most nerve-wracking things ever. I think it's in Super Mario World when they've got that fish that can eat you, the big one that can just jump up and eat you. That is where the bulk of my video game anxiety came from.
Yeah.
The only good underwater level I can even think of is from Donkey Kong Country, because you get a swordfish, which will then allow you to shoot
I actually agree, and it actually counters that shitty movement, the underwater gliding. You actually it's very concise, move left, move right,
and it's satisfying to speed through parts of a level too. To be able to just jut from one side of the screen to the other.
Yeah,
I remember the reason why I wanted to go to Sega Genesis after my Nintendo was the ads that showed how fast it was.
Oh.
And so to me, I thought, well, that's... and the controller had was circular. You could go in 8 directions, not just 4.
Oh my god, 8 directions!
So they had 2 anthropomorphized controllers on screen, and one was the Sega one, and one was the Nintendo one. And the Sega one's like, I can go up, down, left, right, that way, that way, that way. What can you do? Well, I can go up, down.
Really paid off for Sega too.
Right, yeah. That's been the big drive.
I didn't own a Sega Genesis actually either, so I was the Super Nintendo kid.
Me too.
But when I would have birthdays, when the Sega CD came out, I would always, for my birthday, rent a Sega CD because, that was the first time you got to use like discs, like actual compact disc technology. And it was, these developers could load like full motion video onto them, which, was just, it was still 16-bit it was 16-bit, but like, to see like, I remember there was a game called Double Switch and it's starred Corey Haim. It was great. It was like, you were like watching it was kind of like Night Trap where you were like watching these rooms and these rooms were like being invaded by like these bad guys and there were traps in the room and you'd have to prime them. And then when the person stepped on that spot on the floor or sat on the bed, you'd trigger the trap and then this video sequence would happen of like the bed rotating in on itself and the guy going, whoa,
Seriously, Corey, this is the future of gaming.
This
you
is,
gotta get in on this game, man.
Yeah.
It is a little shocking to think about how Nintendo balked against the disc technology for so long. And even once they embraced it, they didn't even embrace a regular size CD. They did those damn mini discs. It was like
the GameCube mini discs. Yeah.
Which, by the way,
and then they've never gone back to discs since.
I think, they eventually...
Oh, no, that's not true.
The Wii had discs.
The Wii, we do not live in a world where it makes sense to use any physical media anymore. In video gaming. It just doesn't, really, for the most part.
I still buy physical copies, though.
So do I. I always worry that, like, well, what happens if my PlayStation takes a dump and they won't let me back into my PSN account?
Yeah, I don't know. Plus, I just like having a collection. I don't know. I like...
I loan video goes out too.
Yeah, for sure. But video games and books.
But do you think there would even be another physical medium beyond discs at this point?
Probably not. No.
Unless we get to a point of where we start handing off hard drives.
Right, but then
so you buy it and you just get a hard drive of it.
Right.
No,
but then
what'll happen? I don't know that it'll. Maybe, right? Because what would have to happen is that people would have to, you hear these horror stories of like people buying a copy of a game and then like, God, I just read something about, what was it? Like the site that this person bought this game from lost the rights to it or lost something or was shutting down. So, like, if you deleted your local copy of it, there wasn't any way to re-download it again, which is, like, a fascinating thing to think about because if you own the physical copy, you just pop it back in, install it, and it's done. So I feel like until we have a situation where, like, people en masse experience some sort of, like, Steam, obviously, is huge right now for PC gaming, where if Steam just shits the bed and, like, people can't download their digital copies of games until it forces the industry to have to go back to physical copies. Yeah, I can't see, like, why would you ever do that? I mean,
right.
I'm amazed because big box stores like Best Buy had an opportunity. Game developers came to them and said, like, listen, people are not going to want to have a physical copy anymore. I think we should start doing this thing. And it would be great if we could get behind, and BestBuy.com was the place where gamers went to download stuff. And BestBuy.com was like, forget that.
Yeah.
Would you like to buy a Tony Braxton CD on your way out of the meeting?
Yeah, let me sell you this $4,000 50-inch plasma TV.
It's a Philips.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Steam pops up. It's the same thing of like when Blockbuster could have purchased Netflix for like $2 million.
Yeah, ridiculous, right?
And then all of a sudden, 3 years later, Netflix is like, "Hey, so long. Here's a rose on your grave, Blockbuster."
And that's a service that's slowly pushing out physical media.
Oh,
I mean, their streaming service is where their future lies.
They single-handedly destroyed rental stores. I mean, like there wasn't any. I mean, when I was working at Take-Two, and we tried to come up with. Like these mail-back envelopes where even if you rented they were awful. It didn't work, So I mean, we did our best to try and compete with it, but there's no late fees, and then the fact that you can return it whenever you want, and you just pop it in the mail. Like it was a pretty tough thing to compete with. You know?
Although I do feel like a town the size of Fargo and bigger towns could sustain a single video rental store.
There is something about that video rental store experience about like walking in and seeing like the box art, and
they have to do that. They have to do what Paradox has done, which is build a community around their store.
Yeah, for sure.
So that they're not just selling you comics. There's games and all sorts of geekery going on there.
For sure.
So like a place like that had video rental or something would be nice. I would love to see VHS rental too, like old media rental, just like a shelf of it.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
But even
that's just it too. Is that like it's? I mean, the only streaming sites today, they're typically only streaming the newer content with like a spattering of some classics, and I'll say classics is even just early 90s movies or whatever, but like, if you want to go out and rent,
Big Man on Campus, where's the Hunchback of Notre Dame going to Notre Dame?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which is one I rented from South Take Two once a month as a kid.
A lot of John Ritter movies.
Yeah. Mine was, I had two movies that I rented all the time. One was American Ninja. Which the 80s had an obsession with ninjas, which meant I had an obsession with ninjas. And then the other one was No Retreat, No Surrender, which is actually Jean-Claude Van Damme's first film, and he plays a villain. Yeah. And it's about this kid who moves to a new high school, befriends a young black boy, who gets picked on because, he's different. And then the new kid gets picked on because, he's the new kid. So then the new kid gets trained in martial arts by Bruce Lee's ghost.
Oh, my God. I need to see this movie.
It's so good. It's so good.
So all three of us have worked at video rental. I never worked at Take Two.
That's right.
But I worked at Videoland and Video Action.
Yeah.
And so can we just maybe drop the pretense that these places weren't just the video rental was really a front for the porn rental in the back?
It absolutely was. And we sold toys too, which I don't think a lot of people know about, but we actually sold like adult toys. We had this
fleshlights.
Similar. So we had a lot of fun with this actually. So my manager, when I was working out at the 45th Street store, you would look in a catalog and figure out what product you wanted to buy. It was like, here's a penis, But one of the things he bought was like this 30-pound ass vagina. It was like, and it even had like a little hole in like the plastic covering it where it's like, feels real. Poke me and see.
It was in like blister style packaging.
Yeah. Well, I think I figured out the thumbnail art for this episode.
There was nothing obscuring it. It was, you were meant to see this product in its glory.
And it had like a little tuft of like fake pubic hair and stuff like that. And my manager set the price, and I remember all of us were, including him, were like, who's gonna buy this? Like, there's no discreet way of walking out of that back room with this giant ass vagina, and that motherfucker sold two of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have to be, I feel a little bit sad about the person who purchased it, because I'm just like, I have so many questions.
What's
like,
the markup?
Yeah. Oh, huge. It was like over $200, I think, for it or something like that.
Do you remember the next morning when like you walk into work and someone's like, they sold the ass vagina
and you're
last
like,
night? And you're like, no.
It was the equivalent of 1969 landing on the moon for video stores. We're like, what?
You go back and watch the security footage, and
like
it's not like the person came in and like looked at it and had a good time. They went in, they went for it, they grabbed it, and they brought it to the front.
They bought it like they bought a used car. They like poked it to make sure it felt like they needed it.
I can imagine after they left that the employees were like all the people at Cape Canaveral, shaking hands, high-fiving, wiping their eyes. They peel off their big horn rim glasses.
Well, and then we shared space with like the tanning sun seekers, so they were probably just wondering what the hell was going on. I mean, I imagine the lotion fumes just affected many of them.
Well, they had to deal with their fair share of weirdos too, who would like poop into the trash cans, or like leave all of their clothes and be like, "This person just left in their coat." What the fuck?
Working at a video rental store is a great place for observing human behavior.
Yeah.
My favorite thing, though, was to watch the body language of men before they would go into the porn section.
Where you can see what's going on in their brain.
But they're trying to be cash, so they're walking around pretending to look at other stuff. Oh yeah, that heavyweights, yeah, it looks pretty good, and put it down, and then they just do there's like this single motion where you sort of dive past the curtain and the poster that says, "Stop or my mom will shoot."
Yeah,
and you get in the back. And then you're in.
And then they're safe.
They're safe. No one can see me back here, but of course you can.
Yeah.
And I love that part. At Videoland, it didn't make sense because Videoland was the size of this podcast studio.
Oh, yeah.
And we only ever rented porn like to 1 or 2 people a day. That was basically it.
Yeah.
And so they would come in and they would stand there, kind of make eye contact with me and just kind of do it right there, look around the place like, oh, yeah, candy, yeah. And then they'd start making their way towards the curtain.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you ever wonder why they made porn VHSs that different color for a long time?
What?
Oh,
like, do you remember how like they for a long time they were like these big red cassette tapes, like colored red? I always thought, well, this isn't discreet at all,
Yeah.
I guess
maybe it was like for the kids,
like when Nickelodeon had the bright orange.
Yeah, like maybe
tapes.
like the little toddler stumbles upon it and dad sees the kid like, oh, picking out the red tape, and he's like, no.
In the morning,
the dad who just casually leaves his porn mixed amongst
he just gets caught up in the moment, and then he like falls asleep on the couch and
and the first thing you have to do when you open the store is do the rental returns that have come in the Dropbox the night before. But when you're at Videoland, it's just porn, so it's just porn you have to return. And so you, at least there, we just had these clear plastic containers for them. So you would just, look at the title and then you go find the cassette cover, and there are humorous titles with porn movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially my favorite was The Ass to Nuts Wife. That was my personal favorite. But one day I go open the store, I'm doing the porn returns, I look at a title of the tape. The movie was called, and I'm not kidding, it was called What Is That?
Oh, wait, I think maybe I feel like I heard about this.
And I was like, I'm not going to put that one back in, but I ended up having to. And it was a prolapsed anus.
That's what on
the cover.
This is so funny because that is actually how I learned about this thing. Because I don't remember how, but friends through friends,
just hanging out.
Yeah, it was like somebody was like, I don't remember who. Somebody was telling me a story, and they're like, "Oh yeah,
God, I hope
Tucker
everyone
Lucas
out
had to put something back, and there's something about pink socks, and somebody had to look it up."
I hope everyone in the art market can hear what we're talking
Yeah.
about, which is
I'm
happening
sure
up
they
there
could.
right now, which
Well,
is pretty great.
if they want some marketing tips, they would listen.
Listen to this.
So we also had that, and then I was in early 20s or early to mid 20s. When I was working there, when I first started working there, I was living with my roommate, Dustin Buchanan. You guys know, and
Dushy do,
little Dushy do, and I brought home one of them one time because it was so amazing. I was curious. We all were curious. Actually, no, I think Dustin came in and he rented it from me while I was working, and then
which means that we got it for free.
Yeah,
cards on the table.
He came back to our apartment and we're hanging out drinking. Pop it in, and it was called Granny Takes a Squirt. And it was just this old lady sitting on a chair, and it was filthy. It was so bad, like all these like 20-something guys were like, Yeah, satiated our curiosity though.
Did you ever?
The title was on point. So
yeah. See, that's the thing is, it's not like they ever take the time to say like, well, let's make people think with this title.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
No, they put it all out there.
Imagine if you just had carte blanche, to just come up with porn titles. Like if we could sit in this room and just come up,
right.
And like we never had to claim responsibility for it, right?
I would love it.
Oh my God, I want that job. Can't major in that in college.
I don't mean to take too hard of a right turn, But there's a Davey story that is one of my favorite things on the planet. And you had already mentioned your dad in Hornbachers and that he worked there.
Yeah.
Could you talk about the disposable camera story?
You know what's interesting is maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, I made Davey record that story onto my phone so that I'd have it whenever I wanted.
Yeah.
But now we can put it on Spotify and Stitcher and
you're welcome, world. So when I was like 20, I was living with my dad. I had like dropped out of college because I was, a rebel or, whatever.
But you did have that bitchin' gateway computer.
I did have that bitchin' gateway computer for Diablo 2. And so my buddy Justin, I think he had just gone through boot camp. I'm pretty sure he had. So he joined the Air Force. And him and one of the guys that he was in the military with, like, came back to Fargo and were hanging out with us. And we were just hanging out at my dad's place. And I had to poop. And so, excuse me for just a moment, guys. And we had a bathroom upstairs and a bathroom downstairs. And I went to the upstairs bathroom. And I mean, between the three of us and everybody who's listening to this, it was arguably one of the biggest poops I've ever taken in my entire life. I mean, it like
connected,
double
like a
wrap, around.
Leviathan.
It was huge. And so, my buddy Justin and I mean, we're typical boys, poops, farts, girls and boobs and, all that stuff, right? And so when I got into the bathroom, I saw this disposable camera sitting because, they were huge, right? Like, disposable cameras were the thing. And I saw it sitting on the counter, so I, went out and I nabbed it. And I snapped a pic of this poop, and I'm like, guys, get in here. You got to see this. And we were, like, oh, my God, flush, clean up, or whatever. And I kind of forgot about it. And see, the thing is my buddy Justin, too, was notorious for doing just random weird shit whenever he wanted. And this was one of those moments where I just literally got to do one of my random weird shits, too. And so, we're all laughing about it. Okay, but I totally forget about it. Like, it's months later, totally forgot about it. And I'm downstairs playing on my computer, listening to music or something. And my dad comes home from work, and I hear, and he goes, I've never been so embarrassed in all my life. And I see this picture, float down the steps. So he had, thrown it angrily, but, and it's this giant poop. And he's like, so Hornbachers, you used to be able to have your film developed. I don't know if they still do it anymore. Probably not.
Oh, nobody does.
Yeah. And so you would just drop in. Since my dad worked there, he just brought in these disposable cameras to get them developed. And this particular camera was used at my older sister's wedding. So, he gets it developed and he opens it up and it's like my older sister getting married. She's in her nice dress, and so he's flipping through them, showing the girls at the counter that, oh, here's my oldest daughter getting hit. She's so gorgeous. And then he's flipping through them. And it's ring on the finger. And then it's ring around the ball. This giant shit. And I don't know what he did or said to get out of it, but I have no doubt he appropriately blamed me. Yeah.
It's I recognize that toilet.
Yeah.
I also think one aspect of the story I always enjoyed was he had duplicates or triplicates made of these.
Well, yeah, because that was the thing. You could always, you'd always I think it was kind of standard to do doubles or whatever. Yeah.
And so he didn't have one, but he had two.
I wonder if that picture's actually still around somewhere. That would be fascinating.
Please let us know.
Yeah. Yeah.
My
I just
stomach
love
hurts.
that there was this moment where it was just me being a dumb 20-year-old and it had just a waterfall effect on My dad. Yeah.
And the fact that like that will never happen again.
No, yeah,
like
I know.
with the way we take photos and the way we consume media nowadays, that will never happen again.
I also one time with my dad stuck a dildo on his giant bay window.
That's right. I remember that story.
Oh, it sat there for a while, and then when we finally took it off, we couldn't get like the ball imprint off the glass. It was stuck there forever. Like, kids are dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's fun when kids are dumb, though,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, like, you know, it was like we like my buddies and I growing up, it was like all harmless fun. Like we never, you know, we didn't hurt anyone. You know, we weren't like ruffians out there beating the shit out of anybody. We just, you know, had fun. My buddy Steve one time fell asleep at my place, and my buddy Justin, crazy Justin, he fell asleep face down, half on my bed and half off my bed. And my buddy Justin put shredded cheese in his shoes and then microwaved them. And then he also poured steak sauce on the ass of his pants so it looked like he shit himself. Steve had no idea. He went like grocery shopping with his mom the next day. Sorry, Steve.
Like, Steve, why do you smell like nachos in the steakhouse?
Yeah.
What's going on?
I just like the thought, like, oh, my mom fucking hated us because even though we weren't violent, like our shenanigans always resulted in her having to do work. Like one time, Justin and I stayed up all night just throwing grapes at our patio door. I don't know why. So it was just covered in like sticky grape juice. We're just dumb.
Some of my best memories of you, Davey, are laughing so hard that we can't breathe and we're both crying, and then something happens during that time we're laughing, which amps things up even more.
Yes. I was so Steven Hillenburg died.
Yeah.
The guy, you know, SpongeBob, right? And I was telling Shelby, about how you and I went to the SpongeBob SquarePants movie.
Yeah.
So JJ and I went to the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. It had been out, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks or something. So it was super dead. And it was probably during the middle of the day. And there was 5 people in the theater, including JJ and myself.
Okay.
And it was one dude and his 2, I'm assuming, shitty kids.
Yep.
And so we're like in the back part and we're watching, and we love SpongeBob SquarePants. And arguably the SpongeBob SquarePants movie to this day still holds up. Like, it's good. So we're like watching this movie and we're laughing and we're enjoying ourselves. And this guy in the middle of the movie turns on. He's like, guys, we get it. Like he thought we were laughing sarcastically. Yeah.
But we're literally laughing at pirates taking their booty and then arriving at a movie theater to see the SpongeBob movie. Like
the Goofy Goober song, like clutch. Or like waiter. And then you know, like when he asked his mustache song, and it's good. Anyway.
Yeah, that was one of those occasions where, and he was trying to shame us, right? And being enough and intimidate us. And I'm like, well, we're not going to let it ruin any end of ours. Do you remember going to see the movie Aragon?
Yes.
Okay, so we go to see the movie Aragon, which is a movie based off of a novel written by a 14-year-old, which is directly stolen from Star Wars.
It's like Star Wars.
It's Star Wars, but with dragons. So I think you found like dragon beer, right?
Well, that was my thing. I was like, if we're going to this fucking movie, we're sneaking in beer, and it has to be dragon beer of some sort. So I literally went to the liquor store, and I'm like, hey, guy, do you have any beer that has dragons on it? And he's like, we got this gluten-free beer called Bard's Tale. And I was like, fucking perfect.
Nice.
And so I bought it. I bought like, I don't know, 6 of them or something like that.
And so we sneak those into Aragon, which immediately when we're in there, we're like, oh, this movie is meant more for youngsters because there's not a lot of adults.
No.
And the problem is these were not twist-off tops, and none of us had a bottle opener. So we're trying to open them on the seat, like in front of us, and nothing's really going. And by the end of it, we're just like, oh, an eye roll, and you got to be kidding me. But Davey's good friend Garth had come with us, and Garth really was excited to see Aragon, and he was very mad at us.
Not happy with us.
Like he left, like stormed out of the movie at the end and took off.
But it was a piece of shit.
It was.
That was a not good movie.
They had intended on making like 9 of those.
Yeah. I frequent Reddit a lot, and Ask Reddit is like a super great subreddit, that you can just pose your questions. And I've seen the question on there like, what is a crappy book? What is what is the worst film you've ever seen, or what is the shittiest book to movie adaptation? And consistently, I see Aragon on there. Consistently. So eat that, Garth.
This is a story. Maybe you don't want to talk about this, but I find this to be very interesting. The time you were arrested for meth.
Yeah, that was great.
Because this to me is a cautionary tale for anyone out
I'll
there.
tell you, I learned a lot. So, I was so.
Also, by the way, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I blame Dustin for this.
Oh my God!
The sheer fact that he didn't say hey, well, I'll just take the money in to drop off at the Cass County Electric drop site, because that it stems from being Dustin's roommate. This whole thing.
Well, okay. So what it was I I was working at Take Two, and it was my first apartment I was sharing with Dustin, and so we were pretty poor. I mean, or at least I was. I was still trying to just kind of figure out like budgets and whatnot, but we had to pay our utility bill. It was it was past due or whatever. So, but I was working at Take Two this night, and we always had to drop off the nightly deposit at there was like a bank on 45th. I think it was Alaris. They had like just an overnight deposit box. But so you close down the store, you'd package up the deposit, and you drop it off there. But because we were past due on our utility bill, I actually had to drive down 13th Avenue, and there was a gas station where you could actually just pay your utility bill right there, and then it was like real time or something. I'm not really sure how it worked, but it was pretty slick at the time, because this would have been like 2003. So I wanted to get there immediately because I wanted, we were past due and I didn't want our electricity turned off and whatnot. So I headed down there and paid the utility bill, bought a 4-pack of Red Bull, and so I've got this stack of checks and cash to deposit too, and it's wrapped up in a deposit bag. But so going south on Fitchner to get back onto 13th Avenue from the gas station, I make a right on a red light, and then halfway through the intersection, I see it's no turn on red, and there's a cop right there, and he pulls me over. I'm like, shit, okay. So he pulls me over, comes up, why I pulled you over? Yep, it's fine. Okay, here's my license. So I'm just sitting there, and he comes back and he goes, hey, why don't you come with me? And I'm like, what? Well, my license was suspended, and I didn't know. So, I don't know, months prior, I had it was going north on, regardless, I had run a red light. And got a ticket then, forgot about it, didn't pay it, so then my license was suspended. Okay, fine. So my fault, agreed my license was suspended. He's like, so I can't drive this car, or so you can't drive home. So he's like, do you mind if my partner just pulls your vehicle over into the Perkins parking lot? Sure, that's fine. So he does. And he goes, how far away do you live? Well, I only lived maybe 20 blocks away. Yeah. I mean, it was not far away because I was living.
It was Perkins to
that 9th Avenue, apartment.
Yeah, right behind a couple blocks north of Hornbacher's on 13th Avenue.
Yeah. So we're, I was like, it's not that far. And he's like, well, you got some friends you can call. And everybody was actually at my apartment, but they were drinking. And I told him that. I was like, they're actually all at my place and they've been drinking, so I don't need to call them. I'll just walk it. It's fine. And he goes, well, there's a lot of mosquitoes out tonight. I can just give you a ride. And I was super grateful for that. Well, so he had given me a $300 ticket for driving with a suspended license, which at that time I was like, holy shit, okay, but whatever. I screwed up. I got, it's my fault. So he drops me off at the apartment, and I get out. I get my wallet, I think, because he'd taken my wallet and stuff. And I'm walking up to the front door, and this person who also lived there, he's like, rough night, huh? And I'm like, yeah, just thinking, shit, $300 ticket, whatever. Okay, so he goes, hey, Dave, come back here. The cop does. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I must have forgot something. And I go back there, and he points to this baggie on, the trunk of his car. And he's like, what's that? And I said, I don't know. and he goes, well, what does it look like to you? And boys and girls, let me tell you right now, if a police officer asks you a question like this, just shut the fuck up, because I, in my 20-year-old, or probably 20, naivety, said, oh, it looks like meth. And he immediately handcuffed me, and I was arrested for possession of a controlled substance. So he had like his buddy cop come, and they did some sort of field test, I think, and ultimately ended up spending the night in jail. So I've been arrested for possession of a controlled substance. He said he found it in the back seat of the cop cruiser. It was not mine. I've never done meth. I've never seen meth, so I don't even know why. I guess that's what it looked like.
And this is pre-Breaking Bad, everybody.
Yeah, this is pre-Breaking Bad. Yeah. Well, yeah, so I have a point to make too, but so I actually have to go to my, I don't know, what is it, arraignment or whatever. This is how, and I remember seeing you, and I was embarrassed and angry, and I remember walking past all of you guys and saying, "Get me the fuck
fuck out of here."
Yeah, that's what I remember exactly. That's what I said.
Felt so bad for you.
Yeah, and so. Bill Lucas, your dad actually showed up with like a $2,000 like cashier's check or something. He's like, "There's no fucking way Davey's spending a night in jail." And so my bond was posted. I think all of us went out and grabbed like a bite to eat afterwards, and like I was explaining what happened or whatever. So I'm being told I get assigned like a public defender, and I meet with him and talk to him and explain what's going on. And he's like, okay. I mean, at the end of the day, it's my word versus this cop's, right? Like, right. I mean, that's all it is. So I'm not in a good spot. Well, so three months, I'm just chilling on this. And, I have no idea how, because it was like up to a $5,000 fine and like 5 years in jail, which, holy shit, that's like a quarter of my life at this point.
And you'd be a felon, right?
And yep. And so I'm just like devastated. It was arguably like the worst 3 months of my life. And my public defender calls me up one day and he goes, "Hey, the toxicology report finally came back." This is, again, like 3 months later. It came back as wax, so they're dismissing all the charges. And which, of course, like, I was ecstatic, right? I'm just like, thank God, I'm calling everyone.
Because you were ready to go to Iowa to go to a lie detector expert.
Yeah, I was willing to do anything. So my uncle's an attorney on my dad's side, Ben, and I remember him showing up in jail the next day to talk to me, and I remember the look on his face was just like disappointment, and and I talked to him, and I remember he told me, don't talk to anybody while you're in there, just keep your mouth shut. And the next day after I'd posted bond, we all went over to his place, because he was just kind of giving us, he's not like I don't think he was like a criminal lawyer, but he was just giving us some advice and trying to get us connected with the right people. And I explained to him what happened, and he's like, after 5 minutes, he's like, "I 100% believe you," because it was true. Like, It wasn't my bag, I had no idea what it was. But so, yeah, the dismissal charges comes back as wax. So people have said, maybe it was like skater's wax and stuff. But here's the thing. Okay, so this is where I get a little bit miffed. Because, I really probably should have done something about it, because it's that actually came up when I rented an apartment like 10 years ago.
Right.
It's still on my arrest record. So when this apartment that I was trying to rent from ran a background check, it showed up, and I had to explain it to him. And I shouldn't have to do that, right? Like, all these charges were dropped or whatever. So
they made a mistake.
Yeah, they did. And so I should have, I feel like I probably should have done something maybe from like a civil perspective, but I was young and dumb, and I didn't really understand what my options were. But so, because if you think about it, right, so there's two scenarios. That bag of wax was either on my person and it fell out, in which case, if that's true, why wouldn't I have just said, "Oh, that's my wax"? You know what I mean? So clearly it wasn't on me. And before they put me in the bag or in the car, like, they actually patted me down, and I made that point to the police officer. I'm like, "You patted me down before, so like, where would I, And so, which means that baggie was either already in the car. And, the police officers are supposed to clean out, their vehicle before they go on patrol and stuff. So he overlooked it, or somehow it was missed on his part, or he put it there, right? So, like, in either of those scenarios, like, it, it certainly wasn't on me. So, yeah, but that was crazy. That was like a crazy 3 months. But
it was. I mean, it's horrific when you think of. I mean, I remember you during that time, and it was always sort of like, well, I better live life for today because who knows what tomorrow's going to have.
Well, I remember that there was like a trip for line benders or something where we were going out Chicago. It was a Chicago trip. Yep. So, line benders had bought tickets to go to Second City for training, and I didn't go because I didn't want anybody to think of me as like a flight risk or anything like that.
I remember even thoughts of like going over to Moorhead was sort of like, well, I don't want to get caught over state lines for anything.
Yeah, it was crazy. Well, so what's crazy, the point that I was going to make earlier. So and what's on the police report is also not really what went down, because on the police report, it says that I properly identified the substance as methamphetamine, when in fact, what the officer asked was, what does it look like to you? And I very honestly gave him my answer. So what's interesting to me is that the fact that I was being honest worked against me, right? The fact that growing up, we had the DARE program, which educates children on what drugs look like and what they do. So the fact that like as a kid, I was taught what these substances look like and how they affect the person, like that could have potentially worked against me too, because I thought that it looked like meth, So it was just very interesting. But yeah, so lesson learned, kids. If you believe you're going to be arrested for something, just shut the fuck up.
If
even if you're 100% innocent, like literally when they say anything can be used against you in a court of law, it can't. So just shut up.
Yep.
Yeah. Just sweat a little bit in the back seat. Realize
and you can be respectful. You can be respectful and just say, "Hey, I understand you're doing your job. I'm just going to go ahead and take advantage of my right to remain silent. Hope you have a wonderful night, but I'm not talking to you."
Yep.
But I like your boots.
Also, I think another thing that we need to make a point of too is, had you made the deposit for Take Two yet?
Oh yeah, that's right. No, I hadn't. So when I got arrested, I had to call my boss the next day and be like, "Okay, here's the thing. There's no deposit last night. I have the money. It's booked in evidence." But, I got it back when we posted bond, and I brought it immediately. And actually, my manager at the time, super cool guy, I told him what was going on, and he's just like, "Dude." And I was like, "I know." He, super supportive of me. So I never, I was so concerned because, well, I loved that job, right? I mean, Take Two Video was so huge for me as a kid. So to be one of the people that got to work there, it was important to me. Plus, it was like something that I was super passionate about, movies and video games, right? So I didn't want to lose my job, I mean, let alone, it's my only source of income. So yeah, but he was super cool.
Thank God, right?
Yeah.
Let's circle back real quick to video games. So Super Nintendo. What do you think best game on Super Nintendo system was?
Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past,
so
for
good.
sure. That
so
game
good.
still holds up. So good. The rain when it like first starts and like, it's amazing.
Yeah. I think the music in it is top notch. I think it's the right level of difficulty.
Yep.
One day, Phil Goodell told me that he beat the whole game like in one day, in one sitting, and I was like, I don't believe you.
I'm sure.
But then
it's possible.
he told me that. Well, he's like, well, yeah, but I didn't get all like the heart pieces or all this stuff, and I was like,
he didn't 100%.
So you didn't do it. The first time I ever heard the term completionist was from Davey, because you are a completionist when it comes to video games.
I am, and I'm trying to get better about it because as I'm getting older, I realize that time is super important. Like what games are. Like the Batman, like the Arkham games, they have like those Riddler trophies. So when I've played through and beat those games, I have to get all the Riddler trophies.
Right.
And it's never worth it.
No.
It's like never worth it.
It's like a compulsion.
It is, but it's like, or the Assassin's Creed games, like,
if I play a Final Fantasy, if I get into it, I need to level everyone to level 99 before I go fight the final boss.
So did you play 15?
I have not played 15 yet. No, I've been going. I don't own a PS4.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I'm one of those people who buys a console like 8 years after it has come out.
Sure.
So my newest console is a PS3.
Oh, okay.
So like, I haven't
Fat Boy or Slim?
Fat Boy.
Yeah. So with the backwards compatibility, then.
Yeah.
I
just for PS1, not for PS2. So I guess maybe I'm labeling it wrong. That to me, it's a Fat Boy. It's not Slim.
No, it should be both.
No, the PS1 games can play backwards compatible, and a PS2 cannot. It's just a weird thing. But the PS2 can play PS1 stuff because it had PS1 components in it. And but yeah, so like it's like a weird thing. The very first model.
How sure about that are you?
Pretty sure.
Really? Because I feel like the PS3, the Fat Boys could do PS2 and PS1, and then when they started making the Slim, they took out the backwards compatibility. And I feel like I know that because my favorite, I'm gonna get ahead of you. My favorite PlayStation 2 game is Dark Cloud 2, which is fantastic, and I remember owning that and playing it on my PlayStation 3, and that's why.
Maybe I don't have a Fat Boy.
Yeah, it's possible that maybe what they did is they took out the PlayStation 2 because I do know that they started with because when PlayStation 3s came out, they were like $700 or something like that. They were insane. So then to make them a little bit more, marketable, and they removed a bunch of the backwards compatibility. So maybe that's what they did.
PS2 games need more hardware than PS1 games do.
Yep.
GameCube.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, that's a good one.
I remember you playing a lot of like Super Mario Sunshine.
Super Mario Sunshine is great. That game also holds up.
Metroid Prime?
I never played any of the Metroid Primes, but people love them, and they're working on a new one, I think, too. That is a series that I've intended. You know how you have those movies that you've intended to watch and you just haven't, or those TV series. Like, I definitely have a list of like games that I haven't played. That is, one day I'll probably work my way through. GameCube. Oh man, I don't know about GameCube.
I remember watching you guys play a lot of GameCube.
Yeah, well, there were some actually some pretty cool RPGs on the GameCube. There was like this one called Batten Kaitos, which is like super obscure, but you would like build a deck using cards to fight monsters. And so you'd have like a long sword card, like a short sword card, and then they would have numbers on them. And if you played them in like consecutive or like numerical order, so if you played like a long sword 5, short sword 6, you would like create these combos and do a bunch of damage and stuff. And I thought that was a super cool mechanic. And there were 2 of them on the GameCube. So I remember playing those. I don't know if I can, I'd have to think about the GameCube one.
Excuse me, I'm yawning there.
This has been a really boring interview.
Right. Even though you didn't have an N64, was there an N64 game that you dug?
Mario Party, I think. I mean, I would say, that game was huge. I loved that game. It's probably that or Gauntlet, that when the Gauntlet, like the new Gauntlets came out, I remember, I think I skipped school to play both of those, Mario Party and Gauntlet. But it was super cool. It was like the first time, I got to do some like sweet, fun RPG type co-op on screen or whatever.
Right.
My sister got a really horrible blister on her hand playing
Mario Party.
Yeah, so she bought a weightlifting glove. At Shields, and she was like, "This is where it's at." And I always made fun of her until I watched The King of Kong: A Fistful of Quarters, and the guy has a weightlifting glove so that he can play. What was the ball? Like it was a rolling ball game.
It's like a bowling game, isn't it? But you have to roll a ball to do it. I don't think it
was a bowling game. I think there was like you use this ball to like move your character around, but then there were moments where you had to like. Was it
Snake and Roll or whatever? The Snake Rattle and Roll or something like that?
It's a very famous game, and it shows him doing it with his feet too, because he can like. You just need to like get this momentum.
So you can appreciate like someone who's able to do that. You're like, oh man, that's cool. But I always have these thoughts when like I hear about stuff like that I'm like, I never want that to be my peak. You know what I mean?
What are you
like
known for?
I never want my peak to be, oh yeah, that guy can play Snake Rattle and Roll with his feet.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm hoping for something a little bit bigger than that, but I'm probably just going to end up with the biggest
Snake
poop.
Rattle. Yeah, biggest poop.
Yeah.
Okay. Is Sega Dreamcast? Did you ever play anything on the Dreamcast?
I bought it in college, and I remember telling one of the guys in my dorm, I was like, I'm I'm going to be making so much money here in the future. I'm going to buy this Dreamcast today, which showed how financially responsible I was. Sega Dreamcast, easily Phantasy Star Online. Easily. That game was amazing. Sega Dreamcast had a 56K modem, so you could connect it, you could dial up, and then that was like the first MMORPG experience I had. You'd roll up a character, you'd run around. I remember I had like a hunter, and you'd run through these dungeons, and it was like the same 4 dungeons, and it was just like a loot game, basically, where you're teaming up with other people, killing bosses, trying to get better equipment, trying to feed I forget what it was called, but you had like this little floaty thing next to you that would like, I think it would like attack sometimes, or it would like bolster your stats, but you could like evolve them too if you fed them a certain way. Game was amazing.
The Dreamcast was ahead of its time, which is
Absolutely.
unfortunate because that thing went down like in absolute flames.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
I do think that there's one aspect of it that like amazed me. I remember our friend J. Scott Miller had a Sega Dreamcast, and he had a game called Seamen.
Oh yeah.
Seamen.
That's a Sega game, I think.
So
I mean, like actually developed, I think, by Sega.
It's a fish tank, and it's full of these little human fish hybrids.
Yeah.
And you could like tap on the glass, and you had to feed them.
Yep.
It was sort of like a Digimon, not a Digimon. It was a Tamagotchi.
Yeah.
Where real time affects this thing. So his family was going out of town for Thanksgiving, and he said, "Could you come over to my house like twice and feed them? Otherwise, they're gonna die."
Yeah, but they had like a human face. They were like fish that had
and
like.
They'd look at you and they're like, "Daddy."
Yeah. I never played it, but I remember it. It was so weird. It was very Japanese.
Oh, very, very Japanese. And with a name like Seamen.
Yeah. So the Dreamcast also had those memory cards that you actually slid into the controller, and then one of them had the more expensive version had like a little display screen on it that would like. I mean, it was super pixelated. It was like Nokia phone, original Nokia phone type graphics. But like, I remember playing Choo Choo Rocket, and like certain animations and stuff would display on this like memory card. Kind of cool.
It's pretty sweet.
Cool.
I remember with the N64 when they added the Rumble Pack.
Oh
and
yeah,
things like that,
which is crazy. I remember thinking as a kid, I was like, "This is dumb," and like. Every controller since then has used that functionality.
Right.
You know?
It's huge.
Yeah.
They're trying to make the video games more immersive.
Yep.
Okay, so let's keep going up. PlayStation 2.
Oh, yeah, that's Dark Cloud 2. That game is
2.
insanely good. Yeah, I still see people Twitch streaming that game, and it's not a lot, but you control 2 characters, Max and then Monica. And the first Dark Cloud was great. Second one's great. It's like RPG meets like world builder. And there's like this cool golf game in it that you get to play. And like the mechanic behind the game that like is super like hooking is that you can level up your weapons and they will evolve. So you might start out with like I remember you start out with like a machine gun, or you start with like a gun, or it's just like a little revolver. But like if you feed it certain elements, there's like an evolve tree, and you don't know what it's going to evolve into until you've satisfied the like evolve requirements, and then you can kind of see, I can turn this gun into like a machine gun or a bazooka or whatever.
Cool.
And and that kept me hooked because I just loved grinding that,
Nice.
Yeah.
PlayStation 3.
PlayStation 3. Oof.
At this point, we're talking about games that obviously are going on multi-console. So, like, if there's a game from that era, the PlayStation 3 or the Xbox, what version of Xbox was that? It wasn't the Xbox?
360.
360, yep.
Yeah. PlayStation 3. Man, I don't know. Is there something that you're playing that you'd like?
I mean, you know who I think nailed it for that console era was the South Park game. I thought was incredibly good.
Yeah.
And for its shortcomings of like some control issues,
right.
I can look past it because the story was great. The fun was there the whole time.
Oh, you know what I would say, and I think this came out So there was, I don't know if I can pick a favorite, but there was a Capcom game called Dragon's Dogma, which flew under the radar that is awesome.
Right.
It's like this RPG. You roll up, like you create like this pawn character, which is like this computer controlled character that follows you around and does damage. You get to pick a class for yourself, and you get to pick a class for your pawn. But then what happens is your pawn actually gets uploaded into like the game's like cloud, and other people playing the game, you can summon other people's pawns who will then run around with you, and they'll level up and stuff like that. And so your pawn might go on an adventure in someone else's game, and then when it reports back, it'll like it'll like learn things. So it actually learns like how to fight certain enemies, or it'll bring back like some sort of, loot for you. But it was super unique. And then what was great is it had like these mechanics when you'd fight these bigger monsters where you could actually jump on the monster and like cling to it, like Shadow of the Colossus style.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not as big as like Shadow of the Colossus, but you would like cling to it. And so you're like fighting the Cyclops, and you're climbing onto its face and stabbing its eye.
I think the problem is that there are all the games that I like on PS3 are also available on PC.
Yeah.
So Skyrim.
Yeah.
Batman: Arkham Asylum.
Yeah.
So it's sort of the era.
It's
the era now where it's really hard to attach a game to one particular system.
You do have some of the exclusive. Oh, you know what? PlayStation 3. If we're thinking exclusivity and PlayStation 3. The Last of Us was absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah.
That game was fantastic.
What was the one that you and my roommate Cody played, where you put two televisions in the same room and you were playing just like and sitting on two separate couches? Was it?
I remember that. But
it was like kind of the lead up to what became Guitar Hero with the Frequency. Was that what it was called?
Oh yeah.
I remember you guys getting into
and Amplitude. Yep, those games are great. And they did like a Kickstarter campaign for like modern Amplitude, and I backed it and played through it. It came out on the PlayStation 4. Unfortunately, the music isn't really as great. They had licensing rights, back with like Amplitude and stuff for like some cool songs, and they didn't really have that for this like reboot or whatever. I mean, the gameplay is still fun, but yeah.
Dave Brunsvold, thank you very much for being on JJ
man.
Meets
Thanks for
World.
having me.
Let's have you back again very, very soon.
Yeah.
And make sure that if you take any giant poop pictures, you send them our way.
Tell your dad we say hello.
Yeah, I will. Okay. Thanks, guys.
That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode of JJ Meets World and would like to help us continue to produce 2 new episodes every week, you can donate to our Patreon. Check out patreon.com/JJ Meets World and donate today. Even as little as $1 a month can go a long way. Visit our website at www.jjmeetsworld.com or hit up our social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the sites the kids are using these days. If you'd like to stay up to date on new episodes of JJ Meets World, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or wherever you consume the podcast that you love. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by checking out www.moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, go to linebenders.com, and you can find direct contact info for JJ. I found that picture that Davey was talking about, and I mean, it is impressive.